API monetization has emerged as a key strategy to unlock the full potential of 5G networks. Leaders on this session from AT&T and Rakuten Symphony will demonstrate how exposing network capabilities such as quality of service, location intelligence, authentication, and edge computing, that through APIs can create new business opportunities for carriers to foster developer ecosystems and enhance customer experiences. And Dias here, welcome to the program.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, for joining us on this session.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Faiq, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here.
So as I mentioned in the aforementioned introduction about network APIs, certainly carriers are trying to monetize that. We've talked about this before. We talked about this almost this time last year in Copenhagen. Where are we on that, sort of the state of play for network APIs?
Yeah, thanks, Abe. It's great to be back. I appreciate, having the conversation today. And a lot has changed, but we're still on the journey as it relates to network APIs, API monetization. And I think what I'd like to introduce first really is, what do we mean when we talk about network monetization or API monetization? I mean, APIs are standard for any tech company, for anyone building an app, anyone building a business. APIs are everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so APIs themselves are not really the exciting part of the conversation. And so when we talk about monetizing APIs, I think we almost cut ourselves a little bit short, because it really is, how do we monetize in an interesting and new way the unique capabilities of the network, and how do we make those capabilities accessible to developers so that they can build better services, they can build value-added digital products or subscription services for their customers. And so actually, since we last spoke in Copenhagen, I've moved into a new role with the company where I have our MVNo business. And when we talk about that, it's really mobile virtual network experiences, which are virtualized network capabilities that are enabled through APIs. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the API conversation that we have talks about things that you build on top of an existing connection, but you also need the APIs to create those connections. Mm-hmm. So having an API platform where you can essentially put together a set of Lego blocks so that developers can create a connection, they can understand the conditions of that connection, and then they can build workflows so that they can control that connection or change that connection. That allows for a whole suite of different use cases that we're working to bring to developers.
Faiq, certainly a lot of challenges around API monetization strategies. What are some of the primary challenges there? Maybe from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Stephanie. I think you touched very correctly on the topic, and I think our industry remains very obsessed about the API monetization as such. But we have to look a little bit broader and wider than that. In telecom environments, we are still very much challenged with the fragmentation of the space. There is so many players, there's so many solutions. So API is the essence of the openness, and we need to connect everything. But I think the technical challenge comes with the fragmentation, that it's important that authorities are working a lot, standards are there, but where some of the non-standard work or integrations needs to come in, we need to have more openness. And when we are monetizing, we need to be a bit more thoughtful about the bigger value chain, what value it's bringing to the setup. Because if we're going to be just focused on API monetization in its unique value, we might be missing out on the bigger picture. And I think that's where a lot of more work and openness is required in telco sector, specifically combining with some of the other verticals and social media players and OTT players, because there's a lot more we can learn how the OTT players have made money out of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And what I would say to that, too, is I should be careful saying this, but a lot of times the technical part is the easiest part of this, because what we're really talking about is we're talking about transformation. We're talking about change management. We're talking about changing the behaviors of folks within the company who are building businesses. We're talking about the developers who are consuming these APIs, educating them on what they mean, how to use them. I think we historically come from a build it and they will come sort of mindset in this industry, and we really have to change that, and we have to start moving towards co-creation and ecosystem innovation and deeper types of partnerships that we haven't historically done a great job at.
It's a good point. And if you could just maybe give us an example of how telecom operators might be attracting more developers, more enterprise stakeholders. Can you maybe walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we've seen across other industries really great examples of developer ecosystem and developer community curation. We look at fintech, we look at cloud, we look at all of these different industries who've done a great job of making APIs accessible and decomposing them in such a way that developers can easily access them and easily build applications and integrate them into applications. And so one of the first things that we're doing is really thinking about how these other industries have been so successful. And a large part of that really is the experience layer. And it really is just a very transparent, very seamless, on-demand, digitalized experience layer to be able to access what are these capabilities that are of core value in my application or in my platform. And so that's the first thing that we have to get good at is the experience curation, the storytelling of what needs to happen. And then I think, to what we mentioned, it's the partnership and the curation of partners who already do this well and have value-added services that really lend themselves to being paired with connectivity, because that part together is where it starts to get really interesting. A lot of the use cases you mentioned earlier about authentication, identity verification, those can go across different industry verticals, different types of applications. So how do we find some of the earliest ones where that gets most compelling and start to work more closely with those types of services, those types of developers and industries to start to get a critical mass of use?
Faiq, talking about collaboration between sort of different sectors in the ecosystem when we're talking about API monetization, what's that collaboration look like, let's say, between operators and, let's say, hyperscalers, for example?
So I'll answer that point, but before that, I'll make another point, which I think I heard our chairman Mikitani saying yesterday, and it was very interesting. See, I think what we take a lot of pride in Rakuten, what we have been able to achieve with the overall ecosystem. In reality, we were more an OTT player by various Rakuten different enterprise businesses, and then we came into telco. So if you think about it, like the whole Rakuten Mobile success and Rakuten Group success is very much linked how we have been able to take our telco data and monetize the other way and vice versa. And now I come to the answer to your point. Like, I mean, the real money makers over here is, I read somewhere that Facebook is monetizing is making 7 million every minute with the 28 million APIs. Twitter is doing 500 million tweets every day. Imagine the monetization they're getting out of this. Can we as telco do more? 100%. We are helping with telecom infrastructure to build a lot more in developed countries, or you go in underdeveloped countries. I take a use case for underdeveloped or third world countries. For example, the subscriber profiling data, credit scoring. If you are looking to get your subscribers, or you're looking for a loan, or you're applying for some financial sector information, you can use from telco API calling in and take their credit score from their history of the on their performance in the mobile network environment, and that's a API monetization between the two verticals. Today, I still believe that a lot more work needs to happen. I come here, we have a Mobile World Congress app, but is my telco provider knowing everything what I want to do, whether I was taking an Uber in the morning, coming here, or I'm going to make a tweet on the Twitter separately, how this can all be connected in a better ecosystem play? There's a much more to be done. So to answer the point, OTT players are really making a good living out of it. As telcos, we need to remain focused on the bigger value chain, but still more open and collaborative to make more money out of it.
Well, and to that point, I agree completely. I think we have to get more creative. I think we have to open up, we need to assess and rethink everything in all of those approaches. But at the end of the day, as operators, we also have a commitment to our customers. And so we really want to make sure that those customers feel comfortable with the use of their data, that they're in control of their data. So that adds another interesting layer too, as you think about data monetization in particular, is how do you operate within the appropriate privacy regimes, and how do you follow local and federal regulations, and how do truly you make sure that your customers feel comfortable that they want to be within an ecosystem that either allows them to control the use of their data in that way or to refrain from it. And so interestingly, that's where MVNOs also have the same responsibility to their customers, but some of them might have a different customer cohort that is more receptive to that and is more interested in that. So we can try some interesting things with some of these wholesale partners as well to see what floats, what lands, what doesn't, and really start to give them the power to innovate in different ways as well.
I agree, Stephanie, and everything needs to remain in the remits of data privacy laws and our subscriber protection. But I talked about this at another event as well, that as a subscriber, I'm very open. I'm anyway sharing everything with my provider, with my OTT players.
Yeah.
So I think the world has moved, and I think it's also a matter of education and what benefit it brings in the bigger value system. So I do believe that there is an openness. We need to be, of course, remain careful on the data privacy laws, but a lot more I see happening and coming in next few years.
It's value exchange and transparency,
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
Faiq, and of course I'll get Stephanie's insight as well. As we move maybe to the next G, as we get closer to maybe 6G, does that affect the API monetization strategies for Rakuten Symphony?
See, we are pioneers in ecosystem play, Open RAN, which is all but nothing open APIs. So we believe that the true dream realization of Open RAN, open APIs, is going to be more and more handy and realized once the real business use cases, application use cases with 5G Advanced and 6G is going to happen. So some of the learnings which we have gone through, we feel that the industry, the play between the different verticals is going to happen more. So I see a lot of development and a lot of monetization and a lot of value system going up and creating the true, the essence what we are looking with the open world.
I think it's going to be both a blessing and a curse in that way of it's going to open up so more capabilities, so more opportunities that it will just flood the ecosystem with all different types of API capabilities that could be accessed. But if we don't get smart now about how we are getting these APIs that exist today to developers and starting to curate that ecosystem, curate that community, someone else is going to come in and disrupt over the top. And so I think now is a really critical time for us to get this right and figure this out as an industry, or else the next wave is going to come and we're going to be behind.
And I think I just want to add on, it's Stephanie's 3rd or 5th Mobile World Congress. For me, 10th or 15th. And I think in 3 years' time, the experience, what we're going to have because of this open API collaboration around the world and how the telcos are going to really be able to monetize, hopefully we will see the difference in the whole overall experience.
Stephanie, I'm going to go off script just for a second. The title of this session is API Monetization Strategies. What would be a more accurate, just based on this conversation, what would be a more accurate title? Take your time.
I would say something to the effect of opening up the network and advanced capabilities that can be leveraged by developers.
Faiq, anything to add?
I think the bigger value chain, the bigger value chain of bringing the ecosystem play, how telcos for a change can really monetize while they have been very focused on the network complexity. So really it's a bigger value chain.
Faiq Khan with Rakuten Symphony, Stephanie Ormston with AT&T. Thanks for your time, and I'm sure we'll talk about something, maybe the next iteration of this conversation, and we'll certainly change the title next time. So thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.